Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria Online. If you haven't been here before, I'll introduce myself. My name is Reverend Carrie Hunter, and I'm the Spiritual Director of the Center for Spiritual Living Victoria. I'm thrilled to announce that we are reopening today, this day being Sunday, July 4th, and we are in our Cook Street Village facilities at 380 Cook Street. Should you wish to join us in person some Sunday, we would love to see you there. But meanwhile, it's lovely to have you here today. So my theme for July is summer thoughts. Not too hard to figure out. I've been thinking a lot lately about some of the questions, the big questions that people ask me, and how I respond to them, or perhaps just questions that come to me as well. And they're the big questions in life. Things like, why am I here? What's my purpose? How did I get here? What happens when I die? Is there such a thing as reincarnation? Those kinds of questions I'll be dealing with during the month of July. And today, one of the things that's been kind of niggling at me is a question that several people have asked me, or they've said that it's something that challenges them about our teaching. And that is that we're always asked to be thinking positively, that this is really what the teaching is about, that it's about positive thinking. And it is, but not exclusively. There are times when positive thinking or positive expressions can be very damaging. And the thing is that we have to know the difference, and we have to understand that difference. And one of the ways that I can best describe it, I think, is that so many people that I know, when faced with difficulties of one kind or another, or if I should express something that I'm concerned about, they'll just say, well, it's all good, or it's all good, it's all God. And I say, it is not all good. I would love to live a life where absolutely everything in it is good and has been good. But the fact is that that's not who we are, and that's not how life goes. And so when someone says to us, oh, just be positive, it can almost be insulting because it means that they're asking us to be in denial of our pain, denial of our grief, whatever it is that we happen to be going through at the moment. And so in that way, when those kinds of expressions come to us and can be hurtful, they're toxic. And so I was kind of thinking about toxic positivity. When is being positive a toxic thing? And I happened to come across an interview on television with a woman named Karen Gordon. She's a doctor. And she was talking about this. She said there is such a thing as toxic positivity, that we do have to acknowledge the feelings of others, and we have to acknowledge our own, that if we bury them deeply inside us, or if we don't acknowledge them in others, then we are doing harm. We're doing harm to ourselves, we're doing harm to them, and the kind of harm that we're doing to ourselves can create illness in our lives, which is something that none of us wants. And so, some of the examples that came up were, if a woman has suffered a miscarriage, someone might say to her, you're so fortunate to already have 2 healthy children. Well, just imagine how that would make that mother feel. It's not acknowledging the grief, the sorrow that she feels for having lost a child. And it's trying to just kind of skim over it. And as I thought about that, I thought, I think probably a lot of the time it's because people just don't know what to say. They don't know what the right thing is to do in certain circumstances. And so they kind of gloss over it, which is something that we call in this teaching a spiritual bypass. You don't stop and go deeply into it and really reassure the other person in any way that you can, comfort them any way you can, or we don't do it to ourselves. If we're taught that we have to be positive all the time, then when something comes up, we may think, oh, well, I can't think that way. I mustn't do that. I'd better find another way to think about this. And so then we repress those things. And as we do, we're creating toxicity in our bodies that can lead to illness. Not ever a good thing to do. Think about somebody loses a job, um, and a common expression is, well, you know, um, one door never closes without opening up another. Or God never closes one window without opening up another one for you. Some expression like that. It flies off the tip of our tongues sometimes, and it really is a negative thing for the other person because it just kind of stops them in their tracks. It doesn't allow them to express what it is that is going on for them. It can be a very hurtful thing, and so we mustn't trivialize the pain of others, nor should we be trivializing our own pain. When we are going through difficulties in our lives, it's very important that we spend time in that difficulty, in that pain, in that hurt, in that grief, whatever it happens to be, because it's there for us to heal. If we just shove it down and don't allow ourselves to think about it anymore, then we're creating big problems for ourselves in the future. I always remember a woman that I met about 30 years ago at a church, and it was actually called a Center for Positive Living. And this woman had untold numbers of illnesses and problems in her life. They were absolutely extraordinary. And whenever I would see her on Sunday, I'd say, "How are you doing today?" And she'd say, "I'm just great, thank you." And the voice was from the neck up. There was no feeling. It was almost as if she went down into her lungs with the air and with her voice, that she might just explode. And that was the way that she looked. And I wanted to just take her by the shoulders and say, "It's okay. It's absolutely okay to say that you're not okay right now." And through the years of ministry, as I haven't been a minister for 30 years, it's closer to 20. Through the years of ministry, I realized that when I'm teaching people to think positively and to pray about a rosy future. And of course, that's the way that we want our lives to be. But when we're going through pain and suffering in our lives at the moment, it's really, really important that we stop to acknowledge it. Ernest Holmes talks about this in the textbook, not a great deal, but there's one section where he says it is really, really important for us to feel our feelings, whatever they might be. Don't try to neutralize them. Don't pretend that they don't exist, because that's when we get into some serious trouble in our lives. We may already have been in some serious trouble, but it's going to get worse if we ignore the feelings. And so he says, get into your feelings, allow them to come up for healing. And that sounds very simplistic, but the thing is that we do need to go through a process. And when we allow ourselves the time to do that, when we allow ourselves the time to grieve, or the time to feel our pain over any kind of loss or any kind of trouble in our lives, we can come out the other side of it. It will take some time, but we can pray for solutions to whatever our problems might be. We can say, "I know that the answer is in me now." And of course, I'm very fond of the expression that the silence has many answers. And so it's when we allow ourselves to go into the silence, just to shut off all the noise, all of the outside chatter, and to feel those deep feelings, and then sit in the silence and just listen for answers. And they're not necessarily going to come the first day, or the second, or the third, or the first week, or the second week. It depends on what we're dealing with. But the answers will come. And provided we allow ourselves to feel these things and to look to a brighter future as we do, then the healing does start, and the healing becomes complete, and we can emerge from that cocoon of darkness that we've been in. Sometimes we all just have to fall on our knees and pray. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about prayer for ease of our suffering. But I'm also talking about saying, these things are going on in my life today. These things have gone on in my past. Um, Somehow there seems to be a reoccurring theme here. Or perhaps this is something that's brand new. But I really am open to surrendering to it. I'm open to surrendering to God. I'm absolutely opening right here and right now, beloved. Ease my pain. Give me some answers, give me some solutions. But also, I know that this is temporary. I know that there is a brighter future ahead. And I have some images in my mind of what that future looks like. And it's beautiful. And when we do that, we're allowing ourselves to feel our pain, but we're also gradually easing our way out of it, coming to an understanding about it. But we're also being authentic with ourselves, which is really, really important. And I'm thinking about when people are grieving, when they've lost someone very, very dear to them. And I do a number of celebration of life services. And very often, the person who calls me might be the mother of a young person, or, more often than not, it's a daughter or a son of someone who's passed. But their grief is profound. And the first thing that I say, of course, is I'm very sorry for your loss. And then I get into a conversation with them about it. And I say to them, I know there are no words. I know that there is nothing that I can say to you right now that is going to ease your pain. But I can tell you I've been through this myself. And I can tell you that you think that your life has changed forever. And it has. But that doesn't mean that you'll never be happy again. That doesn't mean that you will never come out of this pain. It does not mean that you cannot live a full and wonderful life again. And I'm here for you. If you need to talk to me, I'm here. If you need me to come to see you, I'm here. That's about all we can say. And I ask them if they have any questions that they want to ask me about death or anything that might be on their mind. And we get into a conversation about it. And always people tell me afterward that they feel so much better afterward. And the important thing is, I tell them, is never stop talking about your loved one. Never stop talking to others who are close to you. Don't shut it down. A lot of people think, mustn't talk to her about the death of her father, or mustn't talk about the death of their child. Just got to keep quiet. That's a subject that I'm going to steer clear of. No, no, no. You say, tell me about this person. Tell me about his life. Tell me the good things about her. Tell me what made her so special. Tell me what you loved about him. And let them talk, and then encourage them to keep talking to their friends and their families. There's a wonderful poem that I have on my computer that's something to the effect of, I'm not far away, I'm just in the next room. Call me by my name. Talk to me often. I'm paraphrasing now, but it's really important for us to do that. And that's what gradually gets us out of this thing that we call grief. And there are many books that have been written about grief, and most of them say that there's a pattern to it. That you start out feeling numb, and then you get into denial, and then you get angry, and then you feel depressed, and gradually you come out of it. But it doesn't work that way. Any one of those feelings can happen, any one of those emotions at any time. It comes in waves. You might be numb the first day, and you might be angry the next, and you might reach a point where you're depressed, and then you think you're out of it, and all of a sudden you wake up one morning sobbing because the grief is still there. It's so profound. And so we have to kind of go with those waves and just know that they're not going to go on forever, but they're really important for us to go through at that time, not to be in denial, not to say, oh, yes, I just lost my best friend, or I just lost my loved one, but, I'm really fine. I'm just doing great, thank you. That's not the way that it works. For the first few days, sometimes people are able to, almost always can go through the first few days because there's so many things that have to be taken care of. But then there's the aftermath. Then there are the couple of weeks afterward when people aren't around, and when those who are going through these things are suffering, and it's so important for us to be there. And we don't even have to say anything. You know, we can just say, "Look, I'm here for you. I'm here. I'll just sit with you. I will hold you. I'll hold you in my arms if you need to be held. It's okay to cry. It's okay to talk about anything you want to. It's not okay to say, it's all okay. You're a rock. You've always been really strong. Just roll with the punches with this one. Everything's going to be okay." That's not positive, being supposedly positive in our own minds when we say something like that is absolutely not true at all. And it's not the right thing to do. That's when it is very, very toxic. And as things often happen when I'm um, preparing a message for Sundays, I will hear something on the radio that ties in with what I'm talking about. And I was driving into the city of Victoria on Friday, and as I was driving, I was listening to the radio, and there was a woman being interviewed, and she said, "I am a powerful Ojibwe woman," and her name is Sandy Boucher, and she talked about her story. And it was so moving. And there were times where I just felt pain piercing my heart as she was speaking. She said she had really a happy childhood. Her mother was Ojibwe and full-blooded Ojibwe, and her father was French. And so she said she didn't know anything about racism. It was just normal to grow up in that family. And her French father told her every day that she was beautiful and that she was powerful and that she could do anything that she wanted to do when she grew up. And her mother, who had only a grade 4 education, subscribed to the Columbia Book Club. So this was a number of years ago now when there were those kinds of book clubs. And she would buy books about history and about other countries and other languages. And her daughter, Sandy, said her mother was one of the best educated women that she knew because she was self-educated. She was always reading, and a book never went on the shelf until it had been read from cover to cover. So Sandy said she had this kind of idyllic world that she lived in as a child. But when she was 17, she went through a great deal of pain because her father died. And she said all of a sudden that person who was her rock was no longer in her life. And she loved her mother, was completely devoted to her, and her mother was devoted to Sandy. But they both missed her father and husband very, very much. And then Sandy said she lost her mother, and she was absolutely beside herself with pain. She didn't know what to do. She was alone on her own for the first time in her life. And she had to start coping. And she said she didn't cope very well. And all of a sudden, she was out there and she was really encountering racism for the first time. She was treated very badly by people um, wherever she went. And she started to lose any self-worth that she'd had. And she said she started to drink and she became an alcoholic. And she said she managed to get out of that, but she lived in abject poverty. She said she basically had only enough money to have a meal every third day. Imagine that, every third day. That's when the pain was really piercing my heart. And she said that she kept working on it, dealing with all the pain, with all of the memories, with all of the hurts and so on. But she realized she kept hearing her father's voice, and she realized that she didn't have to stay there, that she could rise up out of that place because her father told her that she was powerful and she was beautiful and she could do anything. She said, the thing is, I didn't believe that anymore. I believed it when I was a child. And so she started telling herself that she was a powerful Ojibwe woman and that she was beautiful and that she could do anything. And she said the day came when she believed it. And at that point, everything in her life changed. And she became an author and a motivational speaker and now speaks throughout Canada and in places in the United States and sometimes in other countries. It's a beautiful story about somebody beginning in a kind of idyllic place and then going into profound pain and emerging out of it. But she said she felt every moment of it. She lived every moment of it, and she rose up above it all. She didn't block any of it out. And she knows that she is a woman of wisdom because of it. Now, she still is a relatively young woman. I was really, really impressed when I actually looked her up on the internet when I got home, and I was surprised. She's a very beautiful younger woman. So this is what we're asked to do. Whatever painful situations that we have gone through, we don't have to live in them. You know, as my favorite quote, Dr. Tom Costa used to say, when you're going through hell, don't stop, and for God's sake, don't build a condominium there. And so we don't stop and wallow in our pain, but we don't pretend it never happened. We're not authentic beings when we do that. If we just shove it aside, we're going to hit a point one day where it's going to drag us right down. And so it's really important to deal with it as it happens. And as we do this for ourselves, it's important that we do it for others in our lives, that we are there for them, and that we tell them that we're there for them. And they might not be ready to deal with their own pain at the time. And so we can say to them, I'm here for you. I love you. I will always be here for you. And you may not feel like talking about the loss of your job right now, or you may not feel like talking about the loss of a loved one. You may not feel like talking about living on the poverty line right now. But when that moment comes that you're ready to talk about it, I'm here for you. I'm here to listen. And perhaps together we can come to some solutions. I just love you and support you with everything that you're doing. That's really what it's all about. That is about giving somebody some positivity, something that they can think about, something that they can grow into. And if someone comes to us when we're in pain and says, how are you doing? We're not going to say, oh, I'm just fine, thank you, when our worlds are falling apart. Perhaps we might say something like, I'm going through one of those personal growth periods right now, and I'm really interested in exploring who it is that I'm going to become. And you know, if somebody wants to know more, and if it's someone who's a friend, and we feel like talking, then we can say, well, you know, let's have a cup of coffee, or let's have some tea, and you know, I will tell you what's going on, and I know that I will get over this. But right now, I'm not really in a very good space. And so I need you to just pray for me. I need you to hold me in consciousness and see me rising above what's going on right now. Be honest with yourself. Be honest with others about what's going on with you. And be available to them for what's going on for them. You know, we have to stop pretending. Stop trying to cover things up. Bring them out into the sunlight. Bring them out so that the light can shine upon them. And remember that you are a gift from the universe. You're a gift from God. You're God's precious child. And as such, you have all the power, all the energy of the universe inside you, available to you, and you can use it. And so get to the point where you can say, I am a powerful woman, or I am a powerful man, and mean it. Give up positive toxicity by telling yourself the truth and telling others the truth. And life will be beautiful one day again. This much I can promise. And so it is. Thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to have you online, and as I said earlier, I do hope we'll see you in person at our center one day. If you'd care to make a donation to our center, which is what keeps our doors open now that they are open again, feel free to send a donation to donate@cslvictoria.org. That's an e-transfer. Or you can go online to our website at www.cslvictoria.org. and there's a button there that you can push to donate either by PayPal or by credit card. We really appreciate all that you give, and you will receive a tax receipt for anything that you donate to our center. Thanks for being with us today. Have a wonderful week. Just enjoy the beautiful summer weather. It has cooled off, blessed be, and and so we can be out and about again. And also some of the restrictions that we've been living under have been lifted. And, praise God, praise God, I say every day. And let us stay safe and do the things that we need to do to be safe. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. Bye for now.